The village lay in silence under a sky stripped bare of light. No moon hovered above, no stars winked like watchful guardians, no silver trails guided dreamers across the heavens. The night was an endless sheet of blackness, heavy and hollow, as though the world itself had forgotten how to glow. Generations had been born beneath this darkness, and for most, it had become ordinary. Children played in the sunlit hours, their laughter echoing in the fields, but when night arrived, they slipped easily into sleep without wondering what had been lost. Only the oldest among them remembered the time of starlight. They would sit by the fire, voices thin with age, whispering of nights when the sky sang with light, when constellations told stories, and when weary travelers found their way by the gentle glow of the heavens. Amara listened more than anyone else. She was a quiet girl, with eyes the color of twilight and hair that always seemed to catch the wind. While others laughed and chased each other across the fields, she lingered on the edges, tilting her face upward as though expecting something to return. Her grandmother would smile at her from the doorstep and say, "The stars are never gone, child. They only wait for someone brave enough to call them back." Those words lived in Amara's heart like a lantern in a darkened room. Most villagers pitied her, some even laughed. The girl with her head in the sky, they called her, shaking theirs as if she were wasting her youth on impossible dreams. But Amara didn't mind. If anything, the emptiness above made her long more fiercely. One evening, when the world lay hushed beneath its curtain of black, Amara could not sleep. She slipped quietly out of her family's wooden cottage, careful not to wake her parents, and padded barefoot across the cool earth. Past the last glow of lanterns, past the line of whispering pines, she wandered until the fields opened wide before her. There, in the meadow, silence deepened. The darkness seemed heavier here, pressing down upon her. She folded her legs beneath her, clasped her knees, and whispered to the sky, "Why did you leave us? Why is the night so empty?" Her voice quivered, barely more than breath. The meadow answered with nothing but the rustle of tall grass and the distant hum of crickets. And then, her hand brushed against something strange. At first she thought it was a stone, half buried in the soil. But as her fingers curled around it, she felt warmth, a faint pulse, like a heartbeat. She pulled, and the earth gave way to reveal a small pouch, no larger than her palm. The fabric shimmered faintly, as though woven from silver thread. Amara's breath caught. She tugged the drawstring open, and her world changed. Inside lay a cluster of tiny seeds, each one glowing softly. They pulsed with light, dim and steady, like sleeping embers. Her eyes widened, reflecting their glow, and for the first time in her life she saw something that looked like a piece of the sky itself. The meadow seemed to hold its breath. The pouch sat warm in her hands, and though no sound reached her ears, she felt a message stir within her chest, clear as a whisper carried on the wind. "Plant these, and the stars will return." Amara staggered back, clutching the pouch against her chest. She looked around wildly, but the meadow lay empty, silent except for her thundering heartbeat. She pressed the pouch closer, half afraid it would vanish. But the seeds glowed on, steady, patient, as though waiting only for her. Her grandmother's words flared in her mind, "They only wait for someone brave enough to call them back." Could it be, could she, an ordinary village girl, be the one chosen to bring the stars home? Doubt coiled within her. The villagers would call her foolish if she told them. What if the seeds were nothing but glowing stones, a trick of the dark? What if she failed, and the sky remained empty forever? But beneath her fear pulsed something stronger, hope. Carrying the pouch back to her cottage, she lit a single candle on her small wooden table. The seeds gleamed in the flickering flame, scattering reflections across the walls until her room looked like it held an entire galaxy. Amara's throat tightened, tears blurring her vision. For the first time in her life, she did not feel abandoned by the heavens. For the first time, she felt chosen. She pressed her palms together and whispered, "If this is real, I promise, I will plant every seed. I will bring the stars back, no matter how far I must go." That night, Amara dreamt of wonders. She dreamt of skies blooming with light, of constellations returning like old friends, of children gasping in awe at the heavens reborn. She saw herself scattering seeds across deserts, mountains, and seas, each one becoming a beacon that restored hope. When morning came, golden light poured through the cracks in her shutters. She rose, heart beating with certainty. She knew what she had to do. She tied the shimmering pouch carefully to her cloak, packed a small bundle of bread and water, and kissed her grandmother's cheek while the old woman slept peacefully. At the edge of the village, she paused for a last glance back. The cottages lay quiet in the dawn, roofs tipped with pale light, unaware of what had begun. Amara drew her hood up, touched the pouch one more time, and whispered, "I will bring the stars back to you." Then, with courage burning brighter than fear, she stepped into the path beyond her village. Her journey had begun. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and dew. Amara walked through the quiet lanes of her village, her footsteps soft against the cobblestones. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, and roosters crowed at the rising sun, yet she felt a strange distance from it all, as though she were already walking in a world apart. The pouch of glowing seeds pressed gently against her chest with each step. Its warmth seeped into her skin, steady and reassuring, as if reminding her of the promise she had made. She clutched it with one hand, fearful that if she let go for even a heartbeat, it might vanish like a dream. At the well in the village square, an old man sat sharpening his sickle. He squinted at her and asked, "Out so early, Amara? Where are you headed with that pack on your back?" Amara hesitated. She wanted to tell him everything, that she carried the seeds of the stars themselves, that she was leaving to bring light back to the heavens. But she knew the villagers. They would laugh or shake their heads with pity, the way they always had when she spoke of stars. So she only smiled faintly and said, "I'm going to follow the road and see what lies beyond." The man chuckled, shaking his head. "You'll be back before supper. There's nothing out there but forests and empty hills." But Amara only tightened her grip on the pouch. She knew there was more waiting. She had felt it in her bones ever since she touched the seeds. By the time she reached the edge of the fields, several children had gathered to watch her go. They whispered among themselves, their eyes wide. One of them, a boy about her age with freckled cheeks, called out, "Where are you going, Amara? The sky won't change no matter how far you walk." She paused, her heart heavy but steady, and answered, "Then I'll be the one to change it." The children fell silent, unsure whether to laugh or believe. But Amara turned away before they could reply. She would not let their doubt weaken her resolve. The dirt path stretched before her, winding toward the forest on the horizon. The air smelled of grass warmed by morning light, and each step carried her farther from the only home she had ever known. A tremor of fear fluttered in her stomach. She had never traveled beyond the village alone. But alongside the fear burned a quiet, glowing fire, determination. As the day lengthened, Amara entered the fringe of the whispering woods. Trees rose high and dark around her, their trunks thick as pillars, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Sunlight dappled the forest floor, painting shifting patterns across her path. The woods had always been a place of mystery, spoken of in half warnings and half legends. Some said the trees held memories of the stars themselves. Amara paused beneath an ancient oak and touched the pouch. She felt the seeds stir faintly, as though they recognized the soil. Could this be the place to plant the first? But doubt caught her hand before she could untie the pouch. She remembered her grandmother's stories of journeys, of trials faced by those who carried great burdens. Was she ready to begin here, so close to home? Her stomach growled softly. She sat on a mossy stone, nibbling at a piece of bread while she thought. The air in the forest seemed alive, humming faintly as though the trees whispered to one another. She could almost hear them saying, "Go on, child. We are waiting." The sound stirred both comfort and unease. She rose again, brushing crumbs from her hands, and pressed onward. The deeper she went, the darker the forest grew. Sunlight faded, replaced by a canopy of shifting shadows. Twigs cracked underfoot, and unseen creatures rustled in the underbrush. Yet the pouch continued to glow softly, its light steady against her chest. That glow guided her steps, a lantern in the gloom. By late afternoon, she came to a small clearing where the earth was soft and dark, rich with life. The air here was hushed, almost reverent, and a shaft of sunlight broke through the trees to fall directly upon the center of the clearing. Amara's breath caught. She knew this was where her journey would truly begin. She knelt and untied the pouch, her fingers trembling. The seeds inside shimmered like drops of liquid silver. Carefully, she selected one and pressed it into the soil. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, light burst upward. A tiny star shot from the earth, streaking past the branches, through the leaves, and into the endless sky above. Amara gasped, stumbling back as the clearing lit with silver-blue brilliance. The trees themselves seemed to glow, their leaves trembling in delight. The first star since the age of light had returned to the heavens. Tears blurred Amara's vision. She pressed her hands together, whispering, "It's true, it's real." The glow faded slightly as the star settled high above, twinkling faintly through the afternoon light. But Amara could feel it, its presence, its strength, like a beacon calling her forward. She tied the pouch once more and rose to her feet. For the first time in her life, she walked beneath a sky that was no longer empty. The journey had begun. Amara had always heard stories about the Whispering Woods, a forest said to hum with secrets too old for human tongues. The villagers spoke of trees that bent low to listen, of roots that shifted underfoot as though the earth itself were alive. But as Amara stepped beneath its canopy, she found herself struck not with fear but with wonder. The woods were unlike any place she had known. Leaves shimmered with a faint silver glow, as though kissed by starlight. Vines dangled like strands of emerald silk, and moss spread across the ground like a velvet carpet. Each step Amara took was met with a gentle sigh, a low sound rising from the soil and branches around her. It felt as if the forest were breathing with her. She paused, clutching the pouch of glowing seeds close to her chest. "You can hear me, can't you?" she whispered to the trees. The branches swayed in answer, though no wind stirred. 1,000 hushed voices seemed to ripple through the leaves, carrying faint words that brushed against her ears like a song she almost remembered. "Child of light, bearer of stars," the voices murmured. Amara's heart quickened. "Is that what you see me as? The bearer of stars?" The trees rustled, the voices rising and falling together, though never in perfect unison. "Your path is heavy. Your journey begins here. But beware, child. Shadows hunger for the light you carry." A chill raced through her spine. She had always known that the seeds were precious, but the way the forest spoke of shadows made her tighten her grip protectively around them. "I won't let them be taken," she vowed softly. Suddenly, a small figure leapt from behind a root and landed squarely in her path. Amara gasped and stumbled back. It was no shadow, but a creature unlike any she had seen. A fox, its fur shimmering with streaks of pale gold, and its eyes reflecting the constellations above, though no stars shone through the trees. The fox tilted its head, studying her with sharp curiosity. Then, without warning, it spoke in a voice clear and steady, yet as soft as the forest's whispers. "You are the girl who carries light in her hands." Amara blinked. "And who are you?" The fox's whiskers twitched with what seemed like amusement. "A guardian of these woods. Few travelers enter, fewer still leave unharmed. But you," its star-flecked eyes narrowed, "you walk with something the shadows crave. That makes you both dangerous and needed." Amara hesitated, uncertain if she should trust this strange creature. "Why should I believe you?" The fox stepped closer, its paws soundless against the moss. "Because I have seen what lies beyond. Darkness gathers at the edges of this world. If the seeds you hold are to be planted, you cannot face it alone." She stared into the fox's luminous eyes and, deep within, saw honesty, tinged with sorrow. Slowly, she nodded. "Then will you help me?" The fox lowered itself into a graceful bow. "I will walk at your side, Amara of the starlit seeds." The trees sighed in approval, their whispers swelling into a low chorus that echoed through the forest. Amara felt a new strength bloom within her, a certainty that the journey she had begun was not hers to face alone. But even as the voices comforted her, the forest darkened at the edges, and she felt unseen eyes watching from the shadows. She knew the warnings were true. The forest was alive not only with whispers, but with hungers that would not easily let her pass. Clutching her pouch, Amara looked at her new companion and whispered, "Then let us go together. Whatever waits ahead, we will not face it in fear." The fox's starlit eyes glowed brighter, and together they stepped deeper into the Whispering Woods, where the path wound forward into mystery and peril. The deeper Amara and the fox ventured into the whispering woods, the more the forest seemed to shift. The silvery glow of the leaves dimmed, and a heavy hush pressed against the air. Even the whispers of the trees grew quiet, their voices fading into a warning silence. Amara glanced at her companion. The fox's ears twitched uneasily, its starlit eyes narrowing as if searching the shadows between the trees. "Stay close," it murmured. "We are nearing the keeper's domain." "The keeper," Amara whispered back. The fox's golden fur bristled. "He is no friend of light. He was once bound to protect this wood, but shadows found him first. Now he serves them, and he watches all who enter. If he learns of the seeds you carry," the fox's voice trailed off, heavy with implication. Amara clutched the pouch at her chest. Her heart raced, but her resolve did not falter. "Then I'll protect them, no matter what." The path twisted until it opened into a vast clearing, ringed by trees so tall their tops vanished into darkness. At the center stood a figure cloaked in black, his form tall and still, as though carved from stone. His face was hidden beneath a hood, but his presence was like ice in the air, sharp, suffocating, and cold. The fox growled low in its throat. "The keeper of shadows." The figure turned slowly toward them. When he spoke, his voice was deep and layered, as though many echoes spoke at once. "So, the forest whispers true. A child of light dares to walk my path." Amara stood her ground, though her hands trembled. "I mean no harm. I only wish to plant the seeds and bring back the stars." A hollow laugh rippled through the clearing. "Bring them back, foolish child. Do you not see? The night belongs to me now. The world has grown used to its darkness. The stars are relics, forgotten, unneeded." "That isn't true," Amara said firmly, lifting her chin. "The world longs for their light. I've seen it in the eyes of those who've only known the dark. They dream of stars, even if they've forgotten their names." The keeper's cloak shifted as though stirred by unseen winds. Slowly, he raised a pale hand, and shadows oozed from the ground at his feet, coiling like serpents. "Then prove it. Show me your strength, or leave your light here for me to claim." The fox stepped protectively in front of Amara, its golden fur blazing faintly against the encroaching dark. "Be careful, Amara," it whispered. "His strength is not his own, it comes from the hunger of shadows." Amara tightened her grip on the pouch. Fear pressed against her, heavy and cold, but beneath it pulsed a steady warmth, the glow of the seeds, the promise of what they could become. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I will not surrender," she said. "If you are the keeper, then remember what you once were, a guardian of this forest. The shadows may hold you now, but light can still return, even for you." For the briefest moment, something flickered in the hollow beneath the keeper's hood. Not anger, not malice, but doubt. Yet the shadows tightened their grip, twisting around him, and the flicker vanished. The clearing darkened, the air thick with whispering voices, but Amara stood tall. She pressed her hand over the pouch, feeling its warmth seep into her chest. And though the keeper loomed before her, she whispered a vow that echoed louder than fear. "You cannot keep the stars from the sky." The forest seemed to shiver at her words. The confrontation had only begun. The clearing trembled as if the earth itself had heard Amara's vow. The shadows around the keeper surged like a tide, rising and falling in restless waves. He lifted his hand once more, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. "So be it," the keeper's voice echoed, layered and cold. "If you would bring light back to the heavens, you must first endure the starborn trial. Fail, and your seeds will belong to me." Amara's heart pounded. She glanced at the fox, who met her eyes with a steady, glowing gaze. "Do not fear," it whispered. "This trial is not meant to destroy you, but to test what shines within." With a sweep of his cloak, the keeper struck his staff into the ground. Instantly, the clearing dissolved into darkness. Amara felt the earth vanish beneath her feet. She stumbled forward, then froze. She was no longer standing on soil but floating in a vast void, black as ink, stretching endlessly in all directions. The only sound was her own breathing. "Where am I?" she whispered. The keeper's voice rang from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Between shadow and light, the place where stars are born, and where they die." A faint shimmer appeared ahead. Amara stepped toward it, and the shimmer blossomed into a glowing orb, suspended in the air. It pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of a living thing. The first test, the keeper's voice intoned. Can you kindle light where none remains? Amara reached into her pouch. One of the seeds glowed softly in her palm, no brighter than a candle flame. She closed her eyes and cupped it between her hands, whispering, "Shine. Not for me, but for all who wait in the dark." At first, nothing happened. Then warmth spread through her chest, flowing into her arms and into the seed. It flared, brilliant and golden, swelling into a starburst of light that drove back the void. The orb before her ignited, burning like a newborn star, its light chasing away the shadows. The keeper's voice wavered, less certain. "You have kindled one, but light alone is not enough. Will you protect it, even when darkness claws at you?" The void rippled. From its depths, long black tendrils lashed out, twisting toward the glowing orb. Amara gasped and ran, reaching the star just as the shadows struck. She threw herself in front of it, clutching the pouch against her chest as the tendrils coiled around her arms, cold as ice. The fox's voice echoed faintly, though she could not see it. "Do not fight them with fear. Let the light inside you push back." Amara gritted her teeth and shouted, "You cannot have this." She pressed her hands outward, and from her palms erupted a burst of brilliance, a wave of light that shattered the shadows into dust. The tendrils recoiled, hissing, and dissolved into the void. The star behind her glowed brighter, steady and unbroken. There was silence. Then the keeper's voice returned, softer, almost reluctant. "You have passed the first 2 trials. But there is one more." Before Amara, the void shimmered again, forming a mirror of liquid silver. She stepped closer, and her own reflection stared back, except the girl in the mirror was not holding seeds of light. She clutched a pouch filled with shadows, her eyes dark and hollow. "The final test," the keeper murmured. "Face the darkness within yourself. Only then will you know if your light is true." The mirrored Amara stepped forward, her shadowed pouch leaking black smoke that curled like poison. "You think you can save the world," the reflection hissed. "But you're just a girl. Small. Weak. What if the stars never grow? What if you fail?" The words struck deep, echoing fears Amara had never spoken aloud. Her knees trembled. What if it was true? What if she wasn't strong enough? She closed her eyes, breathing hard. Then she remembered the warmth of the seeds, the voices of the forest, the trust in the fox's eyes. She remembered her vow beneath the stars that no longer shone. "I am afraid," she admitted softly. "But that does not make me weak. My fear is part of me. My hope is stronger." When she opened her eyes, her reflection had begun to crumble. The shadowy pouch burst apart, its darkness dissolving into nothingness. In its place, a reflection of light shone back at her, steady and true. The void blazed with sudden brilliance. Stars bloomed all around her, hundreds, thousands, until she stood in a sky reborn with light. The keeper's voice returned, low and shaken. "You have passed the star-born trial. Few have. Fewer still have done so without surrendering to fear. Perhaps," his words faltered, caught between duty and envy. "Perhaps the stars have chosen well." The vision dissolved. Amara found herself once again in the clearing, the fox at her side, the pouch of seeds warm against her heart. The keeper stood before her, cloaked and still, but no longer reaching for her light. He lowered his head. "Go, child of stars. Plant what you carry. I will not stop you." The fox's golden eyes gleamed. "You see now, keeper. Even shadow must bow when true light awakens." Amara met the keeper's hidden gaze and whispered, "There is still light left for you, too. If you choose it." For the first time, the keeper said nothing. His silence was neither threat nor curse, but a silence that waited, perhaps for the day when he, too, would remember what it meant to guard the light. And so, with the trial complete, Amara and her companion pressed onward, leaving the keeper behind as they journeyed deeper toward destiny. The path through the whispering woods grew gentler after the trial, as though the forest itself wished to ease Amara's weary steps. The fox trotted at her side, its golden fur catching stray glimmers of moonlight that broke through the canopy. Yet Amara's heart was restless, her mind echoing with the keeper's words. "Do you think he will truly leave us be?" she asked quietly. The fox flicked its tail. He let you pass. That much is certain. Whether he remains your enemy or becomes something else, that will be for time to decide. Amara nodded, clutching the pouch of seeds. Their glow pulsed softly, comforting, like a heartbeat against her chest. They had survived the keeper's trial, but the journey was far from over. After hours of walking, the forest thinned. Ahead, the trees parted to reveal a sight that stole Amara's breath, a wide river winding through the land, its waters unlike any she had ever seen. It shimmered with drifting motes of light, as though countless stars had fallen from the sky and dissolved into its current. The river glowed faintly blue and gold, casting soft ripples of radiance onto the banks. The river of forgotten light, the fox whispered. Its voice was hushed, reverent. Amara stepped closer, wonder widening her eyes. It's beautiful, but why is it here, and not in the sky? The fox lowered its head. These are fragments, memories of stars that burned out long ago. They flow here instead of vanishing completely. A place of mourning, but also of promise. If you listen closely, you may hear their voices. Amara knelt at the river's edge, dipping her fingers into the cool glow. At once, whispers filled her mind, not frightening, but aching, like distant songs sung long ago. We once shone, we once guided, do not forget us. Her chest tightened. They're crying, she murmured. They are waiting, the fox corrected gently. Waiting for one who might carry their memory back to the sky. Amara gazed into the flowing light, her reflection mingling with the drifting fragments. A thought stirred inside her. What if the seeds she carried were more than just new beginnings? What if they were meant to awaken the forgotten, to restore what had been lost? Her hand slipped into the pouch, and one of the seeds glowed brighter than the rest. She held it above the water, hesitating. The fox watched closely. Be careful, Amara. The river can give, but it can also take. If you offer the seed too soon, its light may dissolve before it grows. Amara lowered her hand but did not release the seed. Then I will wait, she whispered. But I promise, I won't forget them. The river shimmered in reply, its glow swelling brighter for a brief moment, as though grateful. They followed the current along the bank, its radiant waters guiding them like a silver path. At times, Amara thought she saw shapes in the light, glimpses of constellations, fragments of wings, crowns, or sails, echoes of the worlds and wonders those stars had once illuminated. Yet as beautiful as the river was, it carried shadows as well. In the deeper currents, Amara noticed patches of blackness swirling like ink, devouring the light around them. Each patch seemed alive, writhing as though hungering. The fox growled. The shadows feed here, too. They drink from what has been forgotten, twisting it to their will. That is why you must not linger too long. Amara's heart ached as she watched the light swallowed. She wanted to dive in, to rescue what was being consumed. But she remembered the fox's warning and pressed on. At last, they came to a bend in the river where the current slowed, cooling into a wide basin. In its center rose a small island of stone, and on it stood a single willow tree. Its branches draped into the glowing water, each leaf silver, and trembling as though carrying tears of light. Amara stared. What is this place? The fox's eyes softened. The heart of the river. It is said that whoever rests beneath that tree may glimpse the memory of the first star. Drawn by an unseen pull, Amara stepped onto the stones that led across the water to the island. Each step lit beneath her feet, as though the river itself carried her forward. She reached the willow and placed a hand against its trunk. At once, the world around her dissolved. She was standing in a vast sky, endless and empty. Then, before her, a single point of light flared, tiny, fragile, yet unyielding. It grew brighter, brighter still, until its glow filled the heavens. She felt its warmth spread across her skin, filling her heart with awe. Even the first light began small, a voice whispered inside her mind. Do not forget, every star, no matter how bright, is born from the courage to shine in the dark. Tears filled Amara's eyes. She pressed her forehead to the tree, whispering, I won't forget. I promise. When the vision faded, she was once again at the willow's base, the river flowing gently around her. She turned to the fox, who waited patiently at the shore. I saw it, Amara breathed. The first star. It was so small, and yet it filled everything. The fox bowed its head. And so will you, Amara. You will carry their memory, and plant new light where there is none. Amara touched the pouch at her heart. The seeds glowed stronger than ever, as if answering the promise she had just made. And with new strength in her steps, she left the island behind, the river's glow lighting her path onward into destiny. The river wound on like a ribbon of light, guiding Amara and the fox deeper into the unknown. Its glow grew fainter as they walked, the fragments of starlight thinning until the current was little more than a silver mist skimming the surface. The air grew colder, and the forest gave way to a barren stretch of stone and fog. Amara hugged her pouch close. The seeds pulsed faintly, as if unsettled by this place. "Where are we now?" she asked softly. The fox padded ahead, nose lifted to the air. "The bridge of echoes. Few dare cross it, for it remembers every voice, every step, every doubt that has ever touched it." Amara frowned. "A bridge that remembers." The fox's starlit eyes gleamed. "Yes. It will test your heart, just as the trial did. But this time, it is not shadows you must face, it is yourself." Out of the mist, a vast chasm opened before them, so deep it seemed to have no bottom. Stretching across it was a bridge of glass and stone, its surface cracked yet glowing faintly, as though infused with lingering starlight. Pillars rose along its sides, each etched with faint patterns that pulsed when Amara drew near. She stepped onto the bridge. The moment her foot touched it, a sound echoed in the fog, her own voice. "I am afraid," it whispered. Amara froze. The words were the same she had spoken in the Starborn trial. Her breath caught. The fox stood at the edge, unmoving. "Do not fear the echoes," it said. "They cannot harm you, but they will not lie. The bridge carries the voices of all who cross, your truths, your fears, your secrets." Amara pressed forward. Each step brought a new whisper rising from the bridge beneath her feet. "You are too small. You cannot change the sky. The shadows will take you." The words pressed against her chest like weights, slowing her steps. The fog thickened, and soon she could barely see the fox waiting behind her. She gripped the pouch tightly. "They're only echoes," she told herself. "Only echoes." But the whispers grew louder. Some were voices she recognized, villagers from her home, who had laughed at her dreams when she spoke of planting stars. Others were her own, doubts she had buried deep. "What if I fail? What if the seeds never grow?" Her knees trembled. She sank to the glassy surface of the bridge, covering her ears. The whispers only grew stronger, echoing through her bones. Then, from the other side of the bridge, a faint sound stirred, not a whisper, but a song. It was soft, fragile, yet steady, a melody like starlight falling gently into silence. Amara lifted her head. The voice was her own, but not of fear. It was her voice of hope, the one she had spoken beneath the willow tree when she vowed never to forget the first star. "Even the smallest light can grow." Her heart steadied. She rose slowly, dropping her hands. "Yes," she whispered. "I am afraid, but I will walk anyway." The whispers swirled around her, still sharp, still heavy, but now she let them pass through her instead of holding them close. She took another step, then another, the song of her hope guiding her forward. At last, her foot touched solid ground on the far side. The whispers ceased, vanishing into silence. The fog lifted, revealing a vast horizon ahead, rolling hills bathed in faint silver light, as though the dawn long lost was struggling to return. The fox padded to her side, its eyes warm with approval. "You did not silence the echoes. You accepted them, and still you walked. That is the way of true light." Amara looked back once. The bridge stretched behind her, quiet and still, its glass surface glowing faintly as if marking her passage. She touched the pouch over her heart, whispering, "Thank you, for reminding me to listen, but not to be lost." And with the bridge behind her, she and the fox pressed onward, their path leading ever closer to the place where her seeds would take root. The air shimmered with shifting colors as Amara stepped into a realm that seemed caught between two moments of time. On one side of the path, dusky twilight wrapped the world in indigo and violet hues, stars blinking like sleepy eyes above shadowed blossoms that glowed faintly silver. On the other, a perpetual dawn stretched, bathed in soft pinks, golden light, and the tender song of birds that never tired. The Garden of Dusk and Dawn stretched endlessly, a place where time did not march forward but breathed in cycles, inhaling night and exhaling morning. The flowers here were unlike anything Amara had ever seen: luminous lilies with petals of moonlight, roses that unfurled in sunbeams, vines of glassy blue curling between both halves of the garden, bridging darkness and light. Amara stood in awe, her heart racing with both wonder and unease. She felt as though she had wandered into the pulse of the world itself, a secret place where endings kissed beginnings. From the shadowed half of the garden, a voice drifted, low, melodic, and tinged with sorrow. "Traveler of stars, why do you tread here?" Amara turned and saw a figure cloaked in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid silver. Their face was half hidden, one side aglow with dawn's warmth, the other veiled in dusk's shadow. Their eyes were twin mirrors, one bright as sunrise, the other dark as midnight. "I seek the way forward," Amara said softly, steadying her voice. "The stars have called me here." The guardian's gaze lingered on her, unreadable yet piercing. To walk this garden is to face the balance within. Many come seeking the light and fear the shadow, or clutch the night and flee from dawn. But you, child of earth, must accept both, or this place will never release you. Amara's throat tightened. She had always been drawn to the stars, to their cold glitter against dark skies. But the warmth of dawn, the comfort of new beginnings, that, too, stirred her heart. Still, she remembered the Keeper of Shadows' warning: fear would bind her steps. "I am not afraid," she whispered, though she felt the tremor in her own words. The guardian raised a hand, and the garden responded. Flowers on the dawn side leaned toward her, glowing with golden brilliance. On the dusk side, silver blossoms unfurled with quiet beauty. The air thickened, heavy with two melodies, one radiant, one somber, woven together in harmony. "Then walk," the guardian commanded. "But remember, to plant stars in the sky, you must carry both night and morning in your heart." Amara moved forward, and the garden tested her with illusions. From the dusk, she saw visions of loss, her home swallowed in shadows, the stars extinguished, herself alone beneath a hollow sky. From the dawn, she saw visions of desire, endless sunlight, her journey ending in triumph, the world praising her name. Both pulled at her, one with despair, the other with temptation. She faltered, clutching her satchel of glowing seeds. Her breaths came ragged, caught between two forces. And then she remembered the first night she looked at the stars, lonely, yet full of hope. The night sky had not promised her safety or glory, it had only whispered possibility. "I do not belong to shadow alone," she said aloud. "And I do not belong to light alone. I belong to both, the sorrow that teaches me to endure, and the hope that teaches me to rise." Her voice rang clear, and the illusions broke apart like glass. The guardian smiled faintly, their dawn eyes softening, their dusk eye glowing brighter. "Then you understand." With a sweep of their hand, the garden opened, a pathway of starlit blossoms unfurling before her. The scents of night jasmine and morning dew mingled, filling her lungs with sweetness. "You may pass," the guardian said, their voice carrying both endings and beginnings. "But remember this balance. For when you face the final trial, it will be the seed within your heart that matters most." Amara bowed her head, gratitude shining in her eyes. She walked onward, the path glowing beneath her steps, her heart holding both the hush of night and the promise of dawn. And as she reached the far end of the garden, she felt lighter, no longer a girl caught between fear and longing, but a traveler who had learned to walk with both. Amara stood at the edge of the Garden of Dusk and Dawn, her heart still carrying the harmony of twilight and sunrise. Ahead stretched a pathway unlike any she had yet seen, steps carved not from stone or earth, but from light itself. They spiraled upward, vanishing into the deep velvet of the sky where the stars shimmered like lanterns waiting to be relit. The celestial ascent had begun. She drew a breath and stepped onto the first stair. It pulsed beneath her foot, as if alive, and lifted her gently higher. One by one, she climbed, the garden receding below into a patchwork of colors. The further she rose, the thinner the air became, until each breath burned with the clarity of mountain winds. Around her, the sky grew vast and endless. Constellations unfolded like maps, their patterns shifting into symbols she almost recognized. They whispered faint songs, fragments of stories, fragments of warnings. Yet the higher she climbed, the heavier her satchel grew. The seeds of starlight, once weightless, now pulled her shoulders down, testing her resolve. Each step was harder than the last. Her legs shook, her chest ached, and for a moment she wondered if she could ever reach the top. Then came the winds. Fierce and cold, they rushed against her, carrying echoes of voices. "Why climb?" one whispered, sharp as broken glass. "You are but a girl with no power." "Stay here," another cooed, warm as honey. "Rest in the halfway place, where the struggle ends." Amara clenched her fists. The winds tore at her hair, her clothes, her will. But in her heart, she heard another voice, not from the winds, but from memory. Her grandmother's voice, gentle yet firm, the night she first told her the stars were seeds. "Child, the sky is not beyond you. It is part of you." Her eyes burned, but she lifted her chin. "I am not afraid of the climb," she said, forcing her feet upward. "I will carry these seeds, no matter how heavy. I will not stop halfway. The stars are waiting." With each word, the winds weakened, their whispers fading. The steps brightened, lifting her higher still. At last, she reached a plateau of light where the stairway ended. There stood a great arch woven from strands of silver fire, humming with ancient energy. Beyond it stretched the heavens themselves, vast fields of darkness, glittering with faint embers of stars long extinguished. Amara stepped through the arch, and for the first time, she stood not beneath the sky, but within it. Stars surrounded her on all sides, drifting like lanterns in a boundless sea. Her satchel pulsed against her side, glowing brighter as if answering the call of the cosmos. Tears blurred her vision. Never had she felt so small, yet never had she felt so filled with purpose. The heavens were waiting, not for a hero, not for someone flawless, but for her, a girl who chose to climb. And so she stood there, in the heart of the cosmos, ready to plant the seeds that would awaken the night once more. Amara stood within the boundless sea of night, her satchel glowing as if alive, the seeds of starlight trembling to be released. All around her stretched the hollow sky, where once bright constellations had burned out and left only silence. The world below lay waiting in shadow, its people gazing upward with hearts heavy from darkness. She opened her satchel, and the seeds pulsed like tiny hearts. Some shone as soft as candle flames, others burned fierce like embers longing for breath. For a moment, fear tightened in her chest. What if I fail? What if they fall and vanish, and the sky remains dark? But then she remembered all she had faced. The whispering woods, the keeper of shadows, the garden where night and morning taught her balance, and the stairway where she climbed despite the weight of doubt. Every trial had been a seed itself, planted in her heart and watered with courage. She lifted her hands. "Let there be light again," she whispered, her voice trembling yet steady. The first seed drifted from her palm, rising slowly. It burst into brilliance, unfolding into a star that shimmered like new fire. One by one, she released them. Each seed soared upward, trailing sparks, until the heavens bloomed with radiant lights. The constellations reformed, brighter than before, their shapes dancing across the night. A lion roared silently among the stars, a swan stretched its wings, a maiden poured rivers of light from her vessel. The sky filled with stories, reborn through her hands. Amara's body trembled with exhaustion, but her heart burned brighter than the stars themselves. With the last seed, she held it close to her chest. This one glowed differently, warmer, gentler, as though it held not just light, but love. She thought of her grandmother, of her village, of every child who would one day look up and dream beneath this sky. She kissed the seed and released it. It drifted higher than the rest, and when it burst, it became the brightest star of all, casting silver light that washed over earth and sea alike. Villages awoke to its brilliance, children gasped in wonder, and even the mountains seemed to bow to its glow. Amara sank to her knees, her tears falling weightless into the cosmic sea. She had done it. The sky was alive again. Behind her, the silver fire arch shimmered, and the guardian of dusk and dawn appeared once more. Their dawn-lit eye and shadowed eye regarded her with reverence. "You have planted the stars, child," the guardian said softly. But more than that, you have planted hope. The sky is eternal now, because you dared to climb, and because you carried both night and morning in your heart. Amara smiled faintly, her body weary but her spirit alight. It was never just me, she whispered. It was the journey, the voices that guided me, and the stars themselves. The guardian bowed. The world will remember your name not as legend, but as light. And then, like a falling star, Amara descended back to her world. She landed gently on the hill where her journey had begun, the reborn heavens glittering above her. The villagers gathered, their faces bathed in starlight, and for the first time in countless nights, laughter and song filled the air. Amara lay back on the grass, gazing upward. The stars no longer seemed far away. They felt like companions, like seeds she had planted with her own hands. And though her journey had ended, her story was only beginning, for every night she would look to the sky and remember. Even the smallest seed, carried with courage, can light the darkest of worlds. Moral lesson. The story teaches that true light comes from within. Even the smallest person can carry the power to change the world when they walk with both hope and humility. Darkness and dawn are not enemies, but partners, and by embracing both, we find balance. Most of all, courage grows not from certainty, but from choosing to rise when the path feels heavy. For more motivation fairy tale stories, please like, share and subscribe this channel. Thanks and God bless.